So before I learned to code, I always had all these ideas. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always been tinkering on things. I cannot put all my eggs in this one basket. I have to start thinking of other ideas.
Like capitalism is the only system in which, after a transaction, both parties say thank you. Welcome, Tim Wheeler. Very nice to have you on the call. Thank you for spending the time with me today. Would you mind sharing some words to basically let us get to know you a little bit better?
Sure. Hey, Slavin. Thanks for having me, by the way. Yeah, so I'm Tim Wheeler. I'm a software engineer by day. I'm a father of two young kids. I have a 1.5-year-old son. I have a 5-month-old daughter. I have a beautiful wife. So very busy outside of indie hacking, but I've for 2024, I've started to uh, work on building 12 and 12. So basically, one project a month. It kind of averages out to that. And yeah, so basically trying to take just my day job skills, just of building software, and trying to build my own projects and kind of generate some side income that way, and maybe at some point turn it into my full time gig.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? Yeah, like a little bit of pretext before we begin the conversation. Like the first time I saw about you, like I learned about you, is I think I stumbled upon one of your tweets and on X, and then I started reading your blog post, and I got enamored. Like I got very excited because at the point where I saw your blog and I saw your tweets, I was not really that much oriented in which place I wanted to go. Like I knew that I wanted to make a business. I knew that I wanted to make projects, but I wasn't really sure about about the direction in which I was going. So it was very unorganized and chaotic in my head. But then comes your internet money blog post, and I read about this awesome guy like basically structuring the his creation process like one project per month, and if it works then we continue working on it, if it doesn't we do the next thing but we build on top of it. Like I was so happy, and like the energy that you put into the stuff, the design, like the your eye for design is basically the thing that caught my eye. It is incredible. Like I haven't seen any other indie hacker or like even enterprise level projects, they don't really have the eye for design that you do. So that is one of the things that I would love to talk to you about later. But so first off, I wanted to give you like a huge thank you because your blog posts and your tweets are one of the things that inspired me to continue on my journey and to basically shape my direction and shape my approach to things. So a huge thank you to you.
Yeah, I'm honored to hear that. That's pretty cool. I honestly I try to write for myself, but then I feel like others can potentially pick up some knowledge from it and maybe find it interesting. So I'm happy to hear that you actually it inspired you in some way, and part of it's kind of like therapy in some ways to just post about some of my feelings and thoughts around different projects and my thought process. Maybe you saw the first post that I did about I'm a better entrepreneur than you. That
Yes.
kind of so I think everybody in this space kind of knows Peter Levels. Ironically, my Peter Levels sweatshirt came in like an hour before this podcast, so I had to throw it on. But yeah, so I was like, man, I see all his projects. He said he has like a 5% hit rate. I'm curious what mine are, and so I just like started going through all my different projects and putting them on the Excel spreadsheet or whatever Google Sheets, and I realized like a lot of these projects I never actually launched or did anything with, but I still was getting some kind of reps along the way in terms of you mentioned like my designs and things like that. I would basically just build landing pages just for fun. Like I felt like that was doing something, even though in reality it was honing my skills in terms of maybe design and just like a little bit of code and stuff like that. But uh, it wasn't really getting me out there to the world and doing the hard part. And so I had a moment of just reflection looking at that spreadsheet, seeing all these projects. I'm like, damn, like what I have to do something. I have to take the next step and really push myself to get in front of customers, talk to users, and just put this thing out into the world. And that's what I love about the build in public community on Twitter, or just indie hackers in general on Twitter. I think is a really great community, even though I found some other small communities online, not necessarily on Twitter. But but yeah, it's so just as an outlet, using my blog to just kind of share my journey, and then other few other people have been following along, not many, but it's not really for anybody else other than myself. So I'm happy that you've found some value and inspiration from it. So I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. Like I believe like the things that people do for themselves are the things of most value. And yeah, most definitely. You said something about your I'm a better entrepreneur than you. I've read the blog post, I loved it. And actually the thing that was interesting to me is that you basically like more than half of the projects that you've worked on are projects that you've worked on in the before learning to code era. Can you share something about that? Like, what is your background before coding? Because I saw that you are a senior software team lead, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, yeah, I'm yeah, exactly that. Senior software engineer, tech lead at a growth stage startup in out of Silicon Valley. But I work remotely, and it's nice. I have a great team. We're in the health tech space, and it's a really interesting challenge. The platform that we build, and it's very fulfilling in that regard. And so yeah, like I mean, just looking at where I'm at now, you mentioned when we were talking before the call that you were in software engineering about 6 7 years. Very similar for me, and uh, so so before I learned to code, I always had all these ideas. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always been tinkering on things, whether it's like little hardware things as a young kid. When my grandfather was alive, I was a lot younger. I was like 8 or 9, and he was the webmaster, which is not really a term these days, but he was a webmaster for his car club, and so he would make the website and post updates to their online calendar and things like that. And so I was really young, and I would just sit by his side and I would just watch in awe of what he was doing, and I thought it was so cool. And I never learned to code immediately after that. It took me a long time to figure out that's what I really wanted to do, but I've always had that kind of drive, or that want to build things. And so yeah, so I just a little background before coding. I got into car sales when I was about 19 years old, and I was selling cars. I'm from Massachusetts in the Northeast United States. I moved all the way to the West Coast, California, when I was 19. So just it was the first time I ever had taken a flight. I've never flown before, and it was the day that I moved out there. So I got into car sales. I did that for a while. I just like always had ideas, but I never had the means to build these things. And so, fast forward a couple of years, I had moved back home, still selling cars though, and I had a couple ideas for projects. Like one of them was in the car industry, and so I was like, okay, how do I? I'm just gonna like go on Upwork and try to find somebody to build this project. It was the gist of the project. It was called Quick Price. You could send a text message to this. You log onto the web app. You can enter your phone number. It'll text you, and then you can respond. You can have a text chat with this application that I had built for me, and it would take you through getting a price for a specific car, like all the features and things like that, the color, and it would basically give you a screenshot at the end that you could take to the dealer and show them, and then they would honor that price. And and so I had people on Upwork build this for me. I had very unclear requirements. I think you would know as a software engineer, if requirements are unclear, it kind of you
Muddies the
need
water a lot.
yeah, you just need more information. You can kind of run with things, but if you're paying somebody else to do this for you and you're not crystal clear on the requirements, then ultimately you might just be paying an arm and a leg for this application. So anyways, I had that application built, and I was like, man, like it was cool. It cost me a few $1,000s, and it was like so cool having this to show to people that I work with, friends, things like that. And I was like, man, I really just need to learn how to do this myself. And so I had a couple other small projects similar to that I did on Upwork. That was the biggest project that I did, and I realized like it's not sustainable for the amount of ideas that I have to just keep paying somebody else to do it. And so I always looked at programmers as like kind of they spoke the secret language. There was a secret society, it just wasn't for me. And or just like I wouldn't, I'm not a programmer. I didn't have this like natural ability. And it turns out that you don't really need to have that natural ability. You just have to have the desire and the curiosity. And so I kind of just followed my curiosity down that path. I was in the showroom. I was learning free code camp, if you're familiar with that. So just like little
Yes,
basic
definitely.
coding challenges and things of that nature. And then that took me to, I built up enough of a skill set where I could just string together WordPress themes. And so that got me a job as a WordPress developer and then out of the car industry. So that was like a huge milestone for me. And then from there, I started going to a coding boot camp at night while I was at working at this agency. And then I finally got my foot in the door as an intern at 28 years old, 28-year-old intern as a software engineer. And so I haven't really looked back since then. I've been shipping just like actual projects from that point forward, or building my own projects, I should say.
That sounds actually great. You said you were an intern at 28 years old. Is there any stigma in the States regarding the age of people starting internships in software? Because I know there is one here.
Yeah, I would say probably not a spoken stigma with that, but I would say it was more so myself. I'm like, okay, I'm this like, normally when I think of an intern, I think of somebody, fresh out of college, like early 20s, that type of thing. And so at the end of the day, it didn't really end up mattering, but it was like kind of on my mind when I first started. And then it comes down to performance at the end of the day. And I think for me in particular, I'm just naturally curious about a lot of things. And so in my internship, I worked on our sustaining engineering team, which it boils down to basically that team was basically just solving all the bugs for the actual product development teams. So the product teams would build their products, but then they'd hand it off any of the bugs we would solve. And so it actually built up a great skill set, I think, even though it was kind of like uh, tedious or maybe not the ideal work that a software engineer would want to do. It really helped me troubleshoot. And I think troubleshooting is an invaluable skill because that's most of what we do day in, day out. And so I learned a lot in that. And then I ended up moving to the site reliability engineering team. So doing a lot of infrastructure related stuff. So I did that for about a year. And then ever since then, the last like 4 or 5 years, I've been doing product development. And so I've kind of had like a really good journey through software engineering and just like infrastructure, a lot of troubleshooting and, SQL queries, a lot of that, like on that first team that I was on. I mean, you kind of use that all across the board, but it was a really good, well rounded experience so far.
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds like it. The thing that is missing, like the missing puzzle piece for me, is like whenever I see any of your websites, stand out to me immediately. They are not like they are in- interesting. They pop out. They have soul in them. Like that. That's what I can say. Like, can you share some more like information on how the process comes to life? Like, do you have any background in design, or like did you like to draw as a kid?
It's an interesting
Because
question.
yeah, like most of the websites that I've seen being built from software engineers, they are functional but ugly, and yours are functional and beautiful as well. So that's interesting for me to learn.
Thank you. Yeah, the back in the day, I loved to draw. That was if I look back at like my childhood activities, I loved drawing. I would doodle, I would sketch things all the time. And so I think maybe to your point, I had never actually put that together until you just said that, but I used to do that all the time. And so maybe that's definitely where part of my eye for design might come from. But also too, even just when I first got into tech in general, as a WordPress developer, even before that, when I was trying to get into the industry, one of the things I would do is I would look at a website and I would just try to copy it, like make it look exactly as what I saw on the screen. And that was a really helpful exercise. I did that with some really complicated UIs as well. So one of the first thing that comes to mind was I copied the Yahoo Finance website, which is like really intricate. It has lots of little bar charts and things like that, and I
Scrolling
just
views,
made a
if I remember
static version
correctly.
of that. What's that?
Scrolling views, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was just a really interesting UI to copy, but even just that exercise and doing that a number of times with other sites, I think was really helpful in training me for little details. Because I think the devil is in the details when it comes to design, and it's not just one little detail itself; it's the aggregate of many little details that make up for a great design at the end of the day, and just like something that when you look at it, it's delightful to the user, and so. I don't know. I try to shoot for those. It doesn't always work out, just depending on how much time I have for a project. But I really try to work towards that.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. But that, yeah, I am still trying to assemble it in my mind. But that actually sounds great. Um, one of the things that you mentioned is that you are a husband, a father, a software engineer, and a entrepreneur. So that's one of the more interesting questions that I have for you is how do you do it? How do you find the energy? How do you like what is your process? How do you manage to do so many things at the same time and continue being a functional human being? If that makes any sense.
I it's definitely tough with the two small kids, but I will have to give all the credit to my wife. She's definitely the backbone and the support system of the family. I would not be able to do that if she wasn't so understanding and just willing to help out while I was to do other things. But also too, I mean, we kind of have a system where the kids are in bed by 8 o'clock, so I have like hours from eight p.m. to about midnight to really hack on stuff. Early morning before my day job, I have a couple hours there, and so my wife's at home with the kids during the day, so it is helpful to have that. In terms of the energy, I get asked that a lot. I think honestly, for myself, I don't look at software or building things as a chore. It's a hobby for me. And so actually when I first started my internship as a software engineer, the weirdest realization for me was that people actually all my coworkers didn't work on things outside of work. And that's totally fine. No judgment there, but I got into programming like I mentioned because I wanted to be able to build my own things, and so when I was around my peers who were also software engineers, I was like, wow, like you guys don't like doing this outside of work. And again, that's totally fine, but that was a realization for me. And so it's stayed the same like over these number of years where I just like doing it. I like hacking on things at work. So my 9 to 5 is for the most part super chill just because I like what I do. And then when I log off, it's like, oh, okay, what am I, let me pick up where I left off. Like, what am I working on now? What's the feature? But it really doesn't feel like work. It's just, it's fun. I like bringing things to life. I like seeing people use them. And it's an immense feeling of just gratification when you put something out into the world and other people interact with it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm like the thing is that I'm looking at it from my perspective because I recently became a dad, and like
Congrats.
dealing. Thank you. And dealing with a newborn and a job and spending time with my wife is like it is becoming like it's becoming easier, but it was a really interesting shock that I experienced at the beginning. So uh, I am happy to see that you've managed to do so, and that would basically inspire me in the future,
Some
inspire me
days are tougher
for
than
the bright
others for
future.
sure.
Oh yeah, most definitely, most definitely. But I guess that sort of kind of teaches you to maybe manage your resources a bit better. At least that's the thing that I've seen the thing that I've seen in myself that has changed ever since we've had the kid. And that's actually fits really nicely into one of the questions that I wanted to ask you. We as developers, we love to build stuff, we love to engineer things, and we often like to reinvent the wheel. But in the one of the blog posts that I've seen, I think it was the one for bot roast. You said that you basically saw a nice screenshot API that you wanted to use for bot roast, and you decided to go with that instead of building it your own. And like my initial inner developer response was like, why don't you just build it yourself? You can do that. But like then I look at it from the perspective of a person that has like limited time to work on this, and like that's one of the things that I'm trying to change in myself. So my question to you is like, when do you decide that you want to basically use an API as opposed to build it yourself? And what's the what is the cutoff point to where you just say, you know, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm just going to outsource it to somebody else who's doing that, like Dimitro's screenshot one. So
Yeah, Dimitro's the man. Yeah, I love his products, and it was an easy choice for me because he's so active in the build and public community. And when I had this idea for bot roast, I was like, okay, I need screenshots to make the user experience just seamless. I just want enter a URL, take a screenshot. And so yeah, I kicked around the idea of potentially rolling my own screenshot API, and I just thought of it and I was like, honestly, my constraints are I basically try to choose a project that I can ship in like 1 or 2 weeks. But realistically, it probably takes me the month because, like, just given my family circumstances and like only a couple hours at a time, and also probably spending a little more time on the design than I should. Like, it just takes time, to marinate and things like that. So, just given my time constraints, I was like, there's no good reason for me to actually create my own screenshot API in this case. Now, let's say down the road that this becomes really successful and that becomes one of my biggest cost centers. As much as I love Dimitro, hey, maybe it makes sense for me to roll my own screenshot API and bring that in house. But I think to prove out the concept and just to launch the project, that was a huge factor. It was like, okay, let me just integrate this right away. And I've told Dimitro too. I was like, hey, this thing, I integrated it into the app within 15, 20 minutes or so, like just a little bit of testing and tweaking the settings. And I have never thought about it since. And it still just works. Like that's what you want. You just want an API that just works. And so I've really had no reason to look elsewhere at this time. And so he's built a great product. It does exactly what I need it to do for my users. And yeah, and it's a little bit of like a weird thing, like you said, like the developer and you, and it is the same thing for me, but just the time constraints. It was a trade-off, and I'm happy I made the decision that I did.
yeah, that is most definitely one of the things that I'm going to have to work on if I want to ship more projects. Most definitely, right? Well, one of the things that I've saw is like in the spreadsheet of the 53 plus now project that you worked on is that you have two divisions. The first one is pre-learning to code, post-learning to code, and 2024. Um, do you mind me asking what prompted you to basically, was it like a New Year's resolution to just basically go with project per month, or what's the thing that prompted you to change your approach?
Yeah, so all of 2023, I worked on this project of mine that's really meaningful to me. It's called pairprogram.com. And ever since I started that project, I kind of worked on it in 2021, got a little bit of traction, a few hundred people to join the community that I created around it. And essentially, it's just like what it sounds like. It's a place where people can come together and pair program. So for 2023, long story short, I spent the whole year trying different experiments with that project, talking to users, browsing subreddits and reaching out to people there, getting them to try out, asking them questions like, hey, what is it that you're looking for when you want to pair program with people? Are you looking for, somebody to help you with the job interview process, solving algorithms, that type of thing, like the leak code grind? Or are you looking for somebody to build projects with? And all that to say, I spent the whole year on that project and I still haven't shown it to the world. Like it's launched, it's live now, but I didn't do like any formal, product hunt launches or any of that. And that's okay. I probably will at some point. But what I wanted to do was instead of working on a product that I didn't really understand what problem I was trying to solve, like I knew what I wanted to achieve with it to some degree. I want to connect people to pair program together, but I didn't exactly have a hyper focused way to articulate that to other people. And so I was like, instead of like getting burnt out and continuing on this project, what I want to do is just uh, take like the Peter Levels approach, 12 products in 12 months, and just think of them as a series of experiments. So try different things, try to bake in viral components, try lots of things that I didn't do over 2023 because I just was spinning my wheels, not really getting this in front of as many people as I should have. And so I think just this whole exercise of bringing one new product every month to market, seeing how people react to it, getting feedback from them, iterating on the feedback with what little time that I have to do that, is really, really useful. And just I think at the end of this, either I stop at product number 7 or 8 because I have something that's really taken off and really is starting to generate money, and the market's pulling me that direction, or after 12 products, I have just built up this tool set of marketing skills, design skills, rapid iteration, learning how to collect feedback and talk to users, and then that could come with me as I carry it forward to the next thing that I build. And so, regardless of the actual outcomes of these products, I think it's just a useful exercise in general.
Yeah, I would love I'd like to wish you the best results for you, like the thing that would be the best for you, whether that be like a huge success or basically taking over the skills which you would do in any way. But yeah, I think that's like one of the things that I've noticed like happening at the same time in different places where people converge on the iterate fast, break fast. Either it works or you take it behind the barn, and then move quick. So I think that's a great thing to do. I'm actually trying to do something similar myself currently, but we'll see where that gets me. I'm currently not as active on Twitter as I would like to be, or on YouTube, but maybe with the series that I'm starting, this would change. So one of the things which is most interesting to me is your entire process from the inception of the idea to the basically the finished project or the product. Could you please walk me through your process within as much detail as you would like to share? Or
Yeah, yeah. So, for my process when I'm building any of these projects, or really anything that I have an idea of, I'm really into domain names. So I kind of probably go about this backwards, but I look at domains. I have a couple hundred domains at the moment. A lot of them are things that I want to build, and some of them I keep, some of them I let expire. But so I try to get ideas from just domains because they spark interest in me. But I also, which is honestly probably an anti-pattern. It's probably not the best way to get ideas, but so that's kind of like what I use to pull from if I'm looking for an idea. But also too, just talking to friends, talking or just jotting down things that I find as pain points, little annoyances, things like that. Um, so I start with an idea, whether that's through a domain, a problem that I've had, a problem that I've heard others have, whatever. And I look at my list of ideas that I keep. I keep a running list, whether it's sometimes I keep it in Trello. More these days, it's more in my notepad, like on Obsidian. And so I just keep a running list
same.
there. Yeah, it's a great tool. And so basically with that list for this year, just given the constraints that I'm working within, just I have roughly a month, but realistically it's like 2 weeks to write code. And so limited time this year. So I'm looking at the ideas that I have. I'm like, okay, is this something that's feasible to realistically ship within 2 weeks? And so if it passes that check, I keep going. Maybe I'm like, okay, I think this is a good idea. I talk with my wife. I'm like, hey, what about this idea? She's got like a good pulse. She'll keep me honest. And she's like, yeah, I think I like this other idea better. And so I usually kind of put it to the test with her. And from there, I will then take the idea. And if I decide to build on it, I'll immediately go to branding. Again, might not work for everybody else, but in my mind, if I can conceptualize the brand, I think it then starts to take shape in my mind of what this product begins to look like. And so for me, that's a cornerstone of the product itself. And so just starting with a brand, I start with a simple logo even. So I start with a little logo that really gets my creative juices flowing. And then I'll
Is that
pair
something
that with
that
a
you
font.
are the logos something that you built yourself?
Typically not. I'm not much of a designer in that regard. I'm pretty good at like stitching things together. So I use Adobe Stock, which has a great library of just SVGs and things like that. But anywhere that you can find SVG icons would usually work for something like this. And so I start with maybe a simple icon and then a font, and I pair them together, and I get that to a spot where I really like it, and then that's when I usually begin to break ground on the code. So once I have the brand vision set, I kind of like, as I'm doing all this, I've already kind of nailed down the one or two features that I really think make sense for this type of product. And then from there, I just start building it and, add my design style, my flavor to it. And I kind of have a stack that I work with, and it helps me ship a lot faster. So I don't have to spend much time thinking about that, which I think is the way to do it. Whatever stack works for you. I've tried lots of different stacks over the years, and it's just some I'm faster with than others, and it just comes down to familiarity, just what I like, what my use case is, and so having a stack that you're familiar with is obviously paramount for an exercise like this. And from there, I've been trying to be better about sharing my progress as I go on Twitter. I think that helps kind of guide some of my decisions, but also drums up some interest from just community that I've networked with, and just it's a really great community, and you're obviously part of it as well. But uh, I really found that this community will prop you up if you're willing to give back to it. I think a lot of people try to just take advantage of the community, and they launch something, but they don't ever like give back in a genuine way. Because I think if you're not supporting others around you, your peers in this space, then it's kind of transactional. And so I take a lot of interest in people's projects and things like that, and it's from a genuine place, because I think what we're all doing is really fascinating. We're all trying to, kind of like you said at the start of this, we're all trying to make that transition from working for the man to working for ourselves. And so yeah, so leaning on the community a little bit is definitely a part of the process, and then just helping that guide some of my decisions. And it's kind of like a gut test, to a gut check to get, like, am I onto something here, or is this just a stupid idea? And from there, I pretty much just launch it after that. I haven't done much by way of creating these elaborate launches, or like, product hunt wait list or any of that. I really haven't done much of that. I don't really I think really, from if you're going to build something that resonates with people, you're not going to need any of that, in my opinion. I think it will resonate with people whether they support you, whether they're part of your community or not. So like that extra 50, 100 upvotes that you're going to get, that's obviously going to help. But when you strike a nerve and it really just is something that interests people and that genuinely they want to use, you're not going to need all this other support. And so I've kind of been testing my ideas that way. I don't really like post too much that I'm launching. I mean, of course I have, but I'm not drumming it up for weeks at a time, just because I can't. But also I think it's a good experiment to just see if I'm working on something that's actually interesting enough to other people. And so yeah, I mean, starting from as simple as like the idea, logo, branding, all that, building out the one core feature, and then launching it.
By the way, the thing that you said is that you're not really drumming up the launch itself, but I think one of the things that is very much misunderstood is or not misunderstood, underappreciated, is the frequency in which you're launching. Because like, if I see on your Twitter bio that you're shipping one project each month, like every once or in a while, I'm gonna be thinking like, hey, did Tim like launch the last project he was working on? Let me just check what he's doing. So that is one of the more underappreciated aspects of that specific like approach to shipping. So that is actually great. I wanted to ask you about the marketing side. So in one of your previous posts, I think it was for um, was it Morning Brew or something? I think I forgot the name of the project, but you
Feed
stated
brew,
that you come again, please.
feed brew.
Feed Brew, yes.
Yep.
You stated that you had put all of your eggs in the product hunt basket. Have you since changed your approach, or are you thinking of something different currently?
So I'm I'm in the middle of that now with my current project, and just starting to think of those things because I might have had a little bit of beginner's luck. My January launch went number 7 on Product Hunt, and then I ended up doing really well with bot roast and got number 1 of the day with that. And so I was kind of like riding that wave. I was like, oh, this is all I need. I just need Product Hunt. I don't need to think about anything else. And then with Feed Brew, it was like never had this happen. I've launched like probably 5 or 6 other times prior to this year on Product Hunt, and everything got featured. And I don't know if this is just something new because these other launches I speak of were like a couple years ago. I don't know if this featured aspect is just new, where they introduced it maybe to just help combat spam or just bad listings. But anyways, with Feedbrew, that was the first time where I was like, oh, okay, I didn't get featured, and it's like I got maybe a couple upvotes, and so you really get smacked in the face with just like, all right, what the hell do I have to do now to get this thing out here? And it was really cool because I talked a lot about community, and it was really great to see, and it meant a lot to me because I had posted a genuine story about it sucked to not get featured on Product Hunt after I really just put in a lot of effort to get this thing across the finish line so I could launch it at the end of the month, and just to like get hit in the face with just, oh, you're not featured. Like I woke up, and the last couple launches I had woken up and I was like, whoa, like I'm on like the top couple, like on the mobile app you can only see the top 6 listings, and so I checked my app when I woke up and I was like, oh man, like cool, my listings are here. And to wake up with Feedbrew like not even getting featured really sucked. And so I had that genuine post about, hey, this really sucked, and I ended up, from a family side, had a really good day that day. My son found the golden Easter egg, so that was like a kind of a really good win for that otherwise kind of crappy day. But yeah, so it really got me thinking of, I cannot put all my eggs in this one basket. I have to start thinking of other ideas, other ways to get these products in front of other people. And naturally, there are other tools and platforms that have been out there for a long time. Like, Beta List is out there. Micro Launch, I think what Saeed's doing is really incredible stuff. I love his platform. And I think I've tried a little bit of marketing in terms of an email list. I had a really big list for bot roast, and there's a lot of overlap with bot roast and feed brew. So I was like, hey, maybe I could just tastefully say, hey, I launched this new product that you might like. It's kind of like Tinder for startups. You can just swipe left and right between different products, and that really didn't do much. To my surprise, I thought that was going to be a huge hit, and yeah. So as someone that's not a marketer by day, it was really it was tough to just it was a tough pill to swallow to not get featured with Feedbrew. And so I guess bringing that back to like what I'm doing now, I'm really trying to. I think part of it's just kind of leaning more into my community and kind of building up people where I can. Just a following where I can, so that you mentioned my blog, getting the support from them, but also too, like with products that I want to build, they're not always going to be the target audience of indie hackers, so like my current project now is for people who are interested in domain names if they hold a number of domains in their portfolio. It's a mobile app for that, for managing your domain portfolio. And so yeah, like it's inherently a different audience. There's some overlap there, but it's going to be a different audience. And so how am I going to get in front of this target audience? I'm still trying to figure that out, to be honest with you. But I had a I someone introed me to a person that successfully exited one of their companies, and I had a meeting with this person this week, and it was really insightful. And one of the things that they were saying when they were trying to get early traction or just validate their idea was that they would spend a lot of time in Facebook groups. And these Facebook groups, you can join them and just ask questions. You don't have to shamelessly plug any of your products or anything like that, but you can do a lot of user research. And so along the lines of like things that I'm going to be doing between joining Facebook groups, just where my target audience lives, like where these domain name people are. I'm a domainer myself, so it shouldn't be that hard. Like I can kind of add features to the product based on that. But then also subreddits, other online communities, like find where they reside and just talk with them casually, just have conversations with them and then hopefully build up enough of just rapport with these communities where it's okay to maybe say, hey, I built this thing for people like us. And if you're interested, I'd love to have you try it out, like that type of thing. So that's actually something that I've been starting to dabble with for this alongside my building this application.
That sounds interesting because maybe I, like a lot of other people, feel slightly scummy when it comes to basically plugging in the stuff that they worked on in front of people. And if you're doing it because you're actually helping the people, I think that's fine. But that might be great. I don't know if you're familiar with Alex Hormozy, but one of the things that he said is basically like capitalism is the only system in which, after a transaction, both parties say thank you. So that is another way to think about it. That maybe it's not that much of a bad thing to basically ask people if they want to buy your thing, and you might end up enriching both parties in the process, which is hopefully the thing that we're aiming for.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that quote, and it's definitely something to keep in mind too. As somebody that worked in sales for a long time, I wanted nothing more but to get out of sales. And so I was like, man, I got to pursue a different career path. And so that's what led me into tech. I was like, oh man, I love tech, kind of like a little bit of the backstory that I shared. And and I've come to realize that after launching products, that everything really boils down to sales at the end of the day. Everyone's selling somebody on something, whether you're selling a potential employer that you're the right candidate for the job, whether you're trying to sell other people in your community that your product is the right tool for the job, whatever it is, like anything in life really kind of boils down to sales. When you're trying to find a life partner, you're trying to sell them that you're the one,
That is the
like
most American thing that I've heard all day.
it's
Yeah, but like I know that you guys have a very interesting culture when it comes to sales, like door to door sales. Like I don't think any other place in the world has this. So it's really interesting to hear your opinion on this. But yeah, I think I agree with you absolutely and fully. And that's one of the things which I think I kind of did like a small mistake in my previous studies while I was studying computer science in the Technical University of Sofia. I had the possibility to basically go for my summer vacation to work in America. To I think it's called. mm, I don't even know the word in English. You basically go to the states, work for the summer, and then you go back. And I had the possibility to go there with Western Advantage. I think if I don't, I'm not entirely sure if that's the name, but they were basically a book selling company. And I thought, like at the time, I thought that I dodged the bullet because I didn't really want to talk to people. But now looking back at it, I think I would have learned so many like so many interesting and important things that would help me on my entrepreneurial journey. But yeah, at least it's nice to talk to some people that have already done this and try to learn from their experiences as much as I can, even if it's like not empirical evidence on my side.
100%. Yeah, it's an invaluable skill to have. Just at the end of the day, if you're expecting to take money from another person or to exchange, some type of value for their money, then you kind of have to get out of your shell and talk to these people. But even for me, I was like, man, I just want to code and like not talk to anybody. I feel like that's like most developers resonate with that, and you really get that dose of reality when you build something, and it's like, yeah, nobody really wants it. So
Yeah, I had the same cold slap on my face when I launched my first project, and I thought like I was gonna basically get buckets, basically get featured everywhere, have thousands of dollars. I thought like I thought about scaling, about premature optimization. Like, what if X amount of users, and then like I had zero sales for like 2 months, and then at the end, like somebody bought my product for $9 a month, and I was like,
oh
so
yeah.
yeah, it is definitely a new experience. It is definitely new, but like that's the that's one of the quotes that I found interesting in that regard, is that first time founders think about product, second time founders think about distribution. So
I think about that one a lot. That one's really been resonating with me lately. It's just, I think it was one of the founders of Twitch that originally said that, and I was like, "Damn, that one makes so much sense." And I felt that after the Feed Brew launch because I was like, in my mind, I was like, "Oh, Feed Brew, it's gonna take off. It's so cool. It's got, it's kind of like Tinder. You can just swipe through aimlessly and just, see cool products." And then I had really good support from the Twitter community, but I was like really hoping for this, to be take for this thing to take off, and it just didn't happen. And so really it just shows how important that the distribution is at the end of the day. You can build the coolest thing, but if nobody ever finds out about it, then it just kind of sits in the shadows.
yeah, yeah. You're most likely familiar with Mark Liu.
Yeah,
Yeah, like the thing that he said in one of his previous YouTube videos is that he had to fire the developer in him to and basically put on the entrepreneurial hat to make money. Because if it's up to the developer, he'd be basically coding up on coding features that nobody's going to use until into eternity. So
100%. I was doing that with my project pair program. I was just adding left features left and right. I was adding real-time chat. I was adding this way to upload your projects, this way to, take on these dynamic tasks. And, I thought it was really cool, but nobody was asking me for that. And so it was really just kind of stroking my own ego in a way where I'm like, this looks so cool. I can cross it off my list that I've built something like this, but really nobody has used it. It just probably added more confusion to the platform because people just, with all these crazy features, nobody really knows what they should be doing on pairprogram.com. And so I've taken a lot of learnings just from that experience of trying to not lean in so much to the developer in me, like Mark would say. And I became a lot more interested in the product side of things, and what are people really interested in? What's the one problem that I can try to solve with this? And a lot of the time, it's just kind of a guess or a hypothesis that you have, or maybe it's a problem that I've encountered myself, like we talked about. And I kind of just go off of that gut feeling and build that one thing now, or at least like this year, and just see if it sticks.
yeah, like you never know what's going to happen until it goes in the wild and the market decides its value. Like you may think you have $1 million idea, but the market is king. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Talking about markets and building projects, one of the things that I've seen in your website, like in your profiles, is that you're also doing MVPs. I think it is leverage.com. I wanted to ask you, does the work that you're doing on the 12 projects and Twitter in general help you find new clients, and how does that work in favor for you, or hopefully it does?
Yeah, it's interesting. So it has helped, to answer your question, it has helped uh, bring me clients, but then also too, normally when you have an agency of some sort, you need a body of work to share with others. And so a lot of my projects, all of my projects this year, but a lot of the other ones, they're worthy of just showcasing as MVPs, that like, hey, this is kind of what you would get if you sign up with me. And so that in itself has actually brought me some business, which has been really cool. And so the just kind of, it's almost like how you dog food your own software products. Like it's kind of doing that for my agency where I'm just launching these small MVPs, and it gives people something to look at. Like, hey, this is of the caliber of what you would receive signing on with me.
Mhm. Yeah, and I guess all the number one product badges on Product Hunt, product of the day ones help a ton with this. So
Yeah, I was happy to be able to like finally cross that one off the list, that now I can showcase that because I think it's helpful, and it might just be a vanity type of thing at the end of the day. But anybody launching on Product Hunt would be lying if they're saying that they don't want to get one of those badges. So I was happy to finally be able to show off one of those.
yeah, like the best I've ever gotten is like 70 something, 69 upvotes. So hopefully I can get one of those someday soon. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a numbers game at the end of the day. Like just launching things and seeing what sticks. The other thing that I used to do was I used to be the opposite. I used to spend a lot of time on building this thing and then protected it with all I could and just wouldn't let anybody talk bad about it or would get upset if I got feedback that was kind of like feedback that I needed to hear but didn't want to hear. And that goes to like the launches as well. And it was like I'd get so like down on myself if the launch didn't go as expected. And I always look towards that as like the end all be all of the product. And so now it's more like I just kind of launch in the dark, and I tell a couple people about it. I tell like my community, I'll tweet about it. I don't have much of a following, so it doesn't go that far. But
Yeah, almost
yeah,
a
I
thousand
think
people is not small. Like I am sitting here comfortably at 44, so
yeah,
it,
fair enough. And
it seems like the distance between the Earth and the Moon to me. So
yeah, that's fair. I think it's all relative to the person, and I think you're absolutely right. So, I should not look at that lightly because I do think a lot of my followers. I like to think that a lot of them are genuine, and they're following me for the right reasons because maybe they're interested in things that I'm building, and so hopefully most of them are genuine and less spammy, and so yeah, I mean, I think ultimately just trying to get as many things out there as you can is the most helpful way of doing it. And that's what I love about this approach this year of the 12 and 12. And the other thing I'll just add to that is Tony Din, if you're familiar with him, he
I
had a
don't think so.
tweet. He's a really legendary indie hacker. He's built I think his latest project is Typing Mind, which is really successful. And he also built like DevUtils, which is a Mac OS app that I actually use every day. And also he's built Snapper, which is the screenshot tool. If you see a lot of like the beautiful screenshots with like the nice gradient backgrounds.
Oh,
Uh,
really? I
yeah,
think I
so
actually used that one, but I didn't know it was made
yeah,
by this
so he's
person.
built some
So
really, really interesting stuff. And so I brought him up because he had a tweet that really has stuck with me this whole year since I saw it. And it was, you have to build stupid ideas. You can't cheat. And so, like the whole spirit of what he's trying to say is like you just have to get things out there, whether it's a dumb idea or not, to really land on that thing that finally does stick that you have success with. And it's just part of the rite of passage of becoming an indie hacker and a solopreneur in general. And so that's really resonated with me. And so I'm not trying to limit my ideas. I think my last month's idea was kind of not a it's not going to become this like $1 billion idea, but it's like a quirky idea that I just wanted to get out there, the Manifest Daily project. And it's just along the road of this journey is just something that I need to ship.
yeah, but when it comes to this project, like I think it would be great if I don't know if it's a PWA. I don't know if PWAs on iOS can send push notifications, but I think it would be interesting to add like something like this if you ever decide to turn it into a mobile application, since it would prompt people like Duolingo in a less aggressive way, hopefully.
I know Duolingo is like famous for those aggressive messages. Yeah, I agree though. I actually think this project would be better suited as a mobile app. The manifestdaily.co. I just think it's just lends itself much better to that type of mobile experience where you get a little notification every day. But even a PWA, I think to your point, would kind of be a good middle ground. So something I should explore.
Yeah, yeah, but still, it is an interesting project. Like, it, it, yeah, I wouldn't say that I understand it completely. It seems interesting, but some people like some feedback that I've seen from people is that they find it useful. So hopefully more people find it and find it useful as well. Um,
That's the hope.
yeah, one of the things that I wanted to ask you is so that's currently one of the things that I'm sort of kind of battling with myself, battling with on my own, is the aspect of building in public and not wanting people to steal your idea. And I don't know, is that something that you have battled with yourself, or is that something that you care about at all, or do you just, or because I've seen like Mark Liu, he talked like some of the projects that he has done, like I think it was Zen Voice, I think he did it basically on a 48-hour stream or something like that, or 72-hour stream, and then he just published it. But for some other ideas, like the one that he's currently working on, he is basically keeping everybody in the dark. So I have you found like an interesting middle ground, or like where do you stand on this issue, or is it even an issue for you?
It's definitely something that I think of, and I think it depends on who your audience is. If your audience is maybe indie hackers, for example, a lot of indie hackers like built for other indie hackers, then maybe like for example with Feedbrew, I wasn't super willing to share a lot of the ideas along the way, just because I was like somebody could copycat this, and I have a good feeling that this is going to be a good project, and I still think it has a lot of potential at the end of the day, just as a different format for a launch pad as opposed to Product Hunt or Beta List and those others. And so I wasn't super willing to share a lot of those details, but at the end of the day, I tried to come at this year with more of an abundance mindset and just realize that kind of those thoughts of people stealing your idea, that's cool. Maybe somebody would copycat your idea potentially. The more that you share the inner workings and the things going on under the hood or just your day-to-day progress. But at the end of the day, if somebody's willing to do that, that's cool. That's on them. But it comes down to execution, what I've learned. And so you might be able to beat me in terms of getting it to market a little bit faster, which obviously matters a lot. It's just tougher for me, just given my family situation. But maybe I can execute better than you. And so I shouldn't be so worried about it. Maybe my design resonates with people more than others. And so that's maybe my competitive advantage if I can't ship, quite as fast as you, even though I'm still trying to ship very quickly. I think, me without having kids, I could ship things much, much faster. And so I understand how that goes. And I'm competing against a lot of people that can do that because they don't have the same type of family situation and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I think there's always that element when I'm posting things, but what I have learned, even just sharing a little bit about my current month's project for Domain Copilot, is that a lot of people are just interested in seeing what others are building, and those types of posts actually they hit so much better just because people like seeing these things because maybe it motivates them, maybe it gives them inspiration, maybe they're a user or a future user of your product. And so I think honestly I'm just going to lean more into to posting more as I go.
Yeah, I still like even hear you talking about this. I'm kind of like um, feeling a slight resistance in myself to basically maybe sharing the current idea that I'm having, because I think that it could get murdered by any platform that can basically integrate this as a feature on their own already booming platform, and that's why maybe I'm reluctant to share. Maybe I'm like a little Scrooge, Uncle Scrooge with this. Maybe that's one of my issues. But yeah, like this gives me a whole different perspective, and I will think about this a bit more later. And you shared something about like the tweets performing well. The tweets that perform well are ones that are around what you're building. Have you been able to crack the Twitter code for yourself, or no? I'm asking
I have
because
not.
like yeah, I have seen like some posts perform very poorly, some posts perform greatly, okay, and like some comments, some of my comments on other posts are basically getting 50 or 100x what I'm getting in my own tweets, or like even like one of the posts that I've had was like 10,000 views. One of the replies that I've did on a post about ORMs, like dunking on ORMs, got like 10K views, which was like wow for me. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
if you
think
could
it's
shed some light on that, that'd be interesting for me to hear.
I'll be honest, I like to see when a tweet of mine does well, but I'm never usually aiming for that. It just kind of is what it is. Because I think if you focus too much on trying to hit these sort of vanity metrics and things like that, then it kind of takes away from at least from what I'm trying to accomplish and genuine like I'm just trying to build an audience that is genuinely interested in the things that I want to do. So if I obviously there's gamesmanship and you can try to like use certain pull certain levers and do things to your advantage, like maybe tag along on a tweet thread that's doing really well. Maybe you could post on there or whatever. But really, for me, I'm just trying to post what's on my mind, and if people resonate with that, then maybe they'll follow me. Great. If they don't, fine. But I think at the end of the day, if you're just being genuine over time, that's going to win, and I think that's all that matters. And I think a lot of people say it's better to have 100 genuine followers, users, or customers than 10,000 who are not interested in your 10,000 who are kind of like so-so, right? Like they're not genuine. They could take you or leave you. Doesn't It doesn't really matter. But like if I have, people that are genuinely interested in my journey and willing to support me and just follow along and try out my products and things like that, then I think that's more meaningful at the end of the day. So there's no real shortcuts to this. I think it's just all like day by day, just be consistent, post like your genuine true self and show people a glimpse of that, I think. And other people will want to tag along for that and they'll follow you for the right reasons.
That sounds like an interesting approach. It sounds very genuine, which I love. That sounds great. Yeah, I have a lot to think about after this conversation. You're sharing some nuggets that I love. Thank you.
And take that from somebody who has less than like 900 followers, so not even like 850 or something like that.
Yeah,
So
that is like
whatever all that's
50
worth.
50x than what I've have like. So yeah, I am still taking that advice, taking it to the bank for sure. Right. Um, would you like to plug any of your products or projects, or would you like to talk about anything specific or anything that interests you? Since I see we are getting close to the 1 hour mark.
Yeah, I think uh, if people are interested in just what I'm continuing to build for the rest of the year and going forward, would love for you to follow me on internetmoney.dev. That's my blog where I kind of dissect what I've been building, a little bit of my thought process. I try to come back and share about experiments and things that I've tried. And so if any of my journey interests you, please feel free to follow me there or also on Twitter. I'm on Hashmapped, at Hashmapped, and I share a lot there. Not as much as others, but definitely try to leave my insights and little things that I find along the way. And yeah, my current project is copilot.com. And that's ultimately going to be just a way for people to manage their domain portfolios. And so we'll see how that goes. It's a niche audience. And so if I can at least solve my own problem, then hopefully it can solve others as well. So yeah, would love for people to follow me there.
Yes, and to anybody watching home, please do. Tim is really awesome. He has a eye for design and is an awesome engineer. So please do follow him. All
Thanks,
right.
Slavin. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim, so much for spending the time with me, for having this awesome, genuine, and real conversation. I would love to have another one, maybe soon in the future when you reach your goals for like maybe 4 or 5 projects down the line, so we can talk what you've learned, what you've been through. That'd be really interesting to me.
Absolutely. I'm 100% ready for that. So we'll talk in the future.
Yeah. Again, thank you for spending the time, and to anybody at home, thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks.